Welcome to episode 16 of the Adventuring for Mere Mortals podcast. Today, Trevor interviews Matt May, a canoe kayaker from Louisiana.
All right. Hi, everybody. Our guest this month is Matt May. He's a canoe and kayaking guide from South Louisiana. I first met Matt when my wife and I went on one of tours by Canoe and Trail Adventures, the company he's a part of. And yeah, we had such a great time. It was really interesting, and we learned a lot. So when we started doing this podcasting thing, my wife's like, "Oh, you should get Matt on. He'd be a great guest." So reached out on Instagram as I normally do, and got a hold of Matt. So yeah, Matt, you're a cool dude. And the thing that everybody's got to follow him on Instagram because he takes these things called snelfies. So snake selfies. We're gonna have some questions about that, but I'll say that's your claim to fame is your snelfies. But yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself. You'll do better than I can.
Yeah. So my name's Matt. Grew up in Baton Rouge. Live in Covington now. I lived in Tennessee for a little while after college. Went to Northwestern State up in Natchitoches. Moved to Tennessee after college. Lived up in the mountains for a while. Worked at a camp. I say that's where I started my professional outdoor career, working as a camp counselor, working high ropes, working the rivers a lot. We had a cave that we would go to, rock climbing, whitewater kayaking, all East Tennessee mountain sports. Then met my now wife on a trip back to Louisiana, and then eventually moved back home, got married, starting to put down roots. You know, I work in the outdoor industry still. We'll get into that, I'm sure. We have a kid, fantastic 7-year-old, and we're planting the seeds of the outdoors with her. And
nice. It's
been fun. It's a fun process.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm hoping to do the same thing with my kids. Like my daughter's, like you said, your daughter's 7, mine's 6. So
yeah,
just getting to the point where she's like, oh, I go hiking and stuff. She's like, yeah, I think I want to go hiking with you sometime. Not the length of hikes that I go on, but we'll start there and we'll kind of move up. But yeah. So I'll let everybody know, but Kyle is running a little late, so we're just going to roll with it and he'll drop in at some time. So
we're just going to wave at him.
Yep. We'll wave at him as he comes in, but so we'll do our normal catch up. So what have you been up to, Matt?
Oh, just working a lot. I have 2 jobs, kind of part-time at both. This is the time of year where the guiding job starts to ramp up and my retail outfitter job starts to slow down a little bit. Festival season down here. Schools are starting to end, so people are starting to travel more. We're getting people from, like today I had people from Michigan. Yesterday I had New Zealand and England.
Wow.
So meeting people from all over the world, working a lot, being a dad. Talking about our kids. The other day, me and her name is Kaylin, we went paddling on the Bogafalaya on a canoe. And she said, "Dad, can I paddle the canoe by myself?" I was like, all right, cool. So she got in the boat, sat on the stern seat, and paddled a 15-foot canoe around the river for a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something right with my kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So put a big smile on my face and warm my heart. And I was like, okay, cool. The outdoors are something to be shared with everybody, and planting the seeds with my daughter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as far as me, I finally got over whatever illness I had last month. I was feeling like garbage for a couple weeks, but now I'm back, good as new.
Good.
But yeah, it's nice to hear you were out on the river. It is just now starting to really be spring in central Illinois. Like I think yesterday it was like hovering at freezing at night. And I think we might get 1 or 2 more days where it's looking like it's going to be about freezing. Then hopefully I can finally start like planting garden stuff. I put a couple things out, I'll admit, a little early, and they died. They got frosted pretty good. But yeah, and it's going to be it's getting to the point where I can bike outside again and comfortably.
Good.
Like, I guess I could
Yeah.
have done it over the winter, but
Mhm.
yeah, we're getting there.
I need to get on
but
my
yeah.
bike again soon. I miss it. I've been lazy
Yeah.
though. I tell people I'm a lazy athlete. Like I sign up for races and don't really train. Like, I'll survive it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do that same thing. Like Kyle and I are doing Ragbri, and it's like I'll do really good for like a couple weeks, and then like I'll get busy with work, get busy with kids, and then it'll be like 2 or 3 weeks where I don't do anything. So then I hit it hard again. So I need to get more consistent. So
yep, that's me. My discipline kind of goes out the window with a kid and an outdoor job that's pretty physical, and
yeah,
I'll be fine. I can survive it.
Yep, I agree. Okay, I guess we're going to start getting into our main topic stuff. So I just titled it "A Day on the Bayou" because that's kind of what your outdoor job is, right? So I guess we can start by, what is your guiding job?
Yeah, so I work for a company called Canoe and Trail Adventures. It's been around since 1972. One of the older guide services down here. We're local. We know some really smart people in the environment. We are part of the Master Naturals programs. So we know professionals in herpetology, arborists, and everything in between. So we take these courses, and then we learn all this information, and we kind of pick stuff that we want to talk about on our tours. We do daytime tours. We do sunset tours. We do school paddles. When we have school paddles, we talk to the teachers and be like, hey, do you want us to do educational stuff or just have some fun? And a lot of times it's a mix of in between, depending on the time of year. This time of year, the schools are coming in saying, hey, we just want the kids to have a nice day on the water. I was like, all right, sweet. So we paddle around, have splash fights, let them play, look for gators, look for snakes and stuff like that. But our bread and butter right now is we do daytime tours for mainly tourism. People coming in from New Orleans are coming into New Orleans from other parts of the world. I've had guests from, every corner of the earth, I feel like, and they come in to our state, like where I grew up. Yeah. And it took me a while to see that the beauty is here and people come see it. And that's why I love what I do. I get to see Louisiana the first time again through their eyes almost every single day. Yeah. Well, we have tours 3 days a week, and then I go out by myself sometimes and do stuff. But we take them out. We use an area on the North Shore called Bayou. It's a part of Fontainebleau State Park. Absolutely beautiful waterway. We go through a couple of different habitats. So it's not just a swamp tour. It's a tour of the bayou and the whole Louisiana ecosystem from the pines all the way down to the marsh. So we get to see these transitional spaces. We start in this pine forest. We paddle through a swamp. We see these transitions from the swamp to the marsh, and then we go out into Lake Pontchartrain. And then we hang out at the lake for a little while. Today it was a little windy. We didn't really get into it too much because it's kind of choppy out there some days. Some days we paddle in the lake. Some days we just get to the shore and say, hey, it's choppy. Do you want to get wet? Do you not want to get wet? Okay, cool. Let's make that decision. And then, we hang out on the shore for a little while, and then we paddle back. And this is my favorite time of year to paddle because we're seeing a lot of stuff. We're seeing migratory birds coming up. Like today we saw swallowtail kites and purple gallinules. They're 2 migratory birds we get. The gators are out. We saw, I think, 8 gators today. Snakes are out. I caught a rat snake today. Got a snelfie. Yeah, and it didn't bite me. The one I caught yesterday bit me. But yeah, just teaching people about the Louisiana ecosystems and kind of seeing the beauty in their eyes, what they see.
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of pump up Canoe and Trail Adventures a bit, because you guys are really different than I'll call it the stereotypical tour that the tourists to New Orleans come in. Because you hear about the fan boat tours where you go out on the cane and then, all of these animals are just magically here every time. It's because they feed them like marshmallows and stuff every time. And I'll say, it's like marshmallows aren't a part of alligators and other swamp creatures' natural diet. So correct. Not advised. So
they're not even part of our diet.
Yeah, exactly. They probably shouldn't be. Every once in a while, it's all right. But
yeah, right. Give me a s'more.
Yeah, so your guys' tours are really unique because you guys don't do that type of thing. You just go out and you see what you
Correct.
see, and you guys are
Yep.
really, really knowledgeable. And that's really great. Everyone should know that. So
Yeah, so I feel like it depends on what you're looking for when you come to the South, whether it's New Orleans or wherever, where everybody has their own interests. We typically pull from the people that aren't the really heavy partiers, which is fine with me. Do your own thing. Like I'm drinking beer right now. It's fantastic, but we're not getting the people that are going out all night long. I've had a few guests like that. We're getting the people that want to experience nature as nature, not, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Crafted, I guess. Staged. Yeah. Like we're not going to feed anything. I like to get the hands on, and I try to connect everything. I tell people it's not just an alligator tour. If you want that, I'll point you in a different direction. But I try to connect everything. Like if you just want to see gators, come in March, April, May, you'll see some almost guaranteed. If you want to just, the educational side, that's where I feel like we get those customers. They want to learn more about the ecosystem and connecting the gators to the fish, to the dragonflies, to the humans, and, finding these connection points.
Yeah, I like I said, I really appreciate that. So has Canoe and Trail always been that style of tour, or is that like a newer type of edition?
No, it's always been like that. Byron started the company in the 70s as a gear shop, and he would sell gear, and people would ask him, hey, where can I go? And he's like, well, let's go paddle or let's go for a hike. And he would take them out. And eventually the shop closed down, and I still meet customers that ask about the shop and ask about Byron. He's been doing trips for, 50 years now. He's a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. I talked to him today. He's drove the guests down, and so his goal was to just bring people in the outdoors, make friends, show people what we have, and that's what we do. We have, I like to think, a very educational tour, or I call it edu-tainment. Make crack jokes here and there, and not keeping it all serious. Like this is a cypress tree and this is Spanish moss, and let me tell you why it's not Spanish moss. Things like that is making the connection. That's why I like the smaller groups, because you can connect with the different people. When I have a bigger group, it's just I feel like it's herding cats. Like, okay, there's 12 people on this trip. Everybody over here, and then you wait. As everybody paddles up, and it's like an accordion. It stretches and it gets tight again, stretches, and I feel like it's still gorgeous, and I love it. But I like those small groups, like 2 to 6 people is my sweet spot.
Yeah, like the tour my wife and I went on, it was just us and you, so it was really cool. We got to go in some little tight spots and really get in deep and really get into it. So we really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I like to try to curate it if I can. Say, hey, what are things you're interested in? We can talk about it. Or what I say, if I don't know the answer, I'll talk around it long enough till you forget the question.
That's good. Okay. Before we get too far, we normally ask, like, what was your entry into the outdoors? Like you said, you're like professional outdoorsiness started with like being a camp guide or a camp counselor, but like, did someone introduce you to it, or how did you start in the outdoors?
Yeah. So I grew up, my dad had a little bass boat, and we'd go fishing out, and, and I grew up in Baton Rouge. So there's a place called False River. We'd go fishing in and finding little neighborhood ponds and, getting those brim and sac-a-lait, and so fishing a little bit. And then I remember one day I was in first grade. We had a guy from the Cub Scouts come in, and his name was David Sneed. He just passed away last year, and I got to talk at his funeral and about this outdoor connection, and that's why I am where I am today. He's a phenomenal guy. His family is phenomenal. We've known that family for years and years, but he was the scoutmaster at our local Cub Scout troop, and he came in, and I remember him tying a knot around his waist. He tied it once, and it was, if you've ever tied knots around your waist, it's the bowline around your waist. So the whole break the glass, wipe the belly, pull through. And then he started kind of pumping the class up. Like, how fast do you think I can do it? And we're all first graders like, you can go faster. And he did it like 4 or 5 times. And I remember just my first grade mind was just enamored with this knot. I was like, that's really cool. So told my parents, we got signed up for Cub Scouts and did the Cub Scouts, did the Boy Scouts, got my Eagle Scout. So I've been in the outdoors for a long time. For scouting, we would take camping trips once a month. We would do summer camp. We would do hiking, paddling, and stuff like that. Then I got to college and had to get a big boy job figuring that out, figuring out what needed to be done and what kind of work I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a lot of math. I didn't want to do a lot of science. And I found hospitality management and tourism. I was like, that sounds cool. And in the description is recreation administration. I was like, I like recreation. And so I started that program and got into the hospitality industry, and I got a minor in culinary arts. So I tell people I got a degree in planning, fun, and cooking.
Yeah.
And it fits. And I like to say that I'm using my degree in my line of work and, in the tourism industry, and I don't see me going anywhere else. I love the outdoor industry. I tell people I don't make a lot, but I love what I do, and I'm happy.
Yeah, that's really important. A lot of people don't have that in their jobs. It's just a job.
Yeah. So long-winded answer, but it's a long story. So
that's great. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of the people we listen to this, however, I don't know how many people actually do, but haven't really experienced like the swamps and bayous of Louisiana. So I feel like we should have some swamp bayou type questions. Sound good?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Bring it.
All right.
Like I said, if I don't know it, I'll talk around it.
Hey, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people use the words swamp and bayou interchangeably, but I know that is not the case.
Yes.
Let's go for it.
All right. So I tell people if you hear somebody say I'm in the bayou, that means they're swimming. They're swimming. So bayou is a slow, non-moving waterway, usually fed by a bigger body, and there's not typically a directional flow to it. So it can go one direction, it can go the other direction based on winds, and if you're far enough down south, based on the tides. Where we paddle, it's all wind driven. There's no high tide, low tide time of day. It's all, south wind, north wind, pushes it in, pushes it out. I've seen really cool areas where the water's flooded, and when it's low, right at the edge of the shoreline, there's a really cool exposed beach line. So the bayou is the water. And just like you have a babbling brook flowing through a mountain, you can have bayous going through swamps and marshes. And that's just two ecosystems that you're going to be in. You can walk on a marsh, you can walk on a swamp or in a swamp. Either one works. So the swamp is the trees. So the wetland trees, the forest, all that area, that would be a swamp. And then the marshes are low-lying grasslands, typically near a wetland. So the marshes, they're the low-lying grasslands. Sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's squishy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you'll walk on it and you'll fall 3 feet into the mud and you'll have swamp, stinky mud on your legs. And other times you can walk on like in the wintertime, you can walk on the dead grass and stay pretty dry. So you can paddle, you're paddling on the bayou in a swamp, or you're paddling on a bayou in a marsh. It all depends on where you are and what part of the state you're into.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So, as you said, there's a lot of different organisms. I think the one that everybody's most familiar about down there is the alligators. So
yes.
I can't remember the name of the big alligator that's out on Cane Bayou. But I think my wife went on a tour with some friends. I don't know if you were their guide or not, but there's this giant alligator that's probably roughly the size of your kayak. Should people be freaked out about that at all? Because if it wanted to get you, feels like it could. I don't know if it has the motivation, but thoughts, I guess.
So the one you're talking about on Cane, we call Big Joe. But we spell it Jeaux. So you got to do it the whole Cajun way, blah, blah, blah. But so I haven't seen him come out yet this season. So that's interesting. I got to figure out why he's not out. There's another 10-footer out there that's maybe took his place. Maybe Big Joe died. We don't know. Mm-hmm. That's another story. But gators in a wild setting. So what I tell people is if you're in an area where they're not being fed regularly, you're in a wild ecosystem, they do not bother you usually. Occasionally, they're wild animals. They can do what they want. But for the most part, I've never had any issues when I'm out by myself. I tell people a safe distance away is about a boat length away from a gator. And you never block their route from the shore to the water because they'll go under you or over you.
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty close to Big Joe before going around a turn, and he just made a big splash, pushed some water, and kind of rocked my boat, but he didn't officially like attack me or hit me. He's trying to get away from me.
Okay.
When they're born, they're only about 6 inches, and that fear of being eaten sticks with them as they get bigger. So their prey gets bigger, but also that fear typically stays with them as long as they're in a wild setting and nobody's feeding them marshmallows, nobody's feeding them hot dogs or dead fish or ducks or whatever they're feeding them. So short answer is I feel comfortable enough to get within a boat length away, a paddle length away, and I've gotten a little bit closer depending on the size of the gator. But like this 10-footer that we have now, we haven't named him yet. We'll name it at some point. But we got, I would say, a little bit closer than a boat length away. And these boats are 13 feet, so still pretty close.
Yeah.
I tell people I have all my digits still, all my fingers, all my toes.
That's an important test for someone that's around the gators all the time. So that's good. Like most animals, if they haven't been habituated to associating humans with food, they usually want nothing to do with you, or they'll want to stay a safe distance away. So that's good. And I just remembered one fun factoid about gators. When they're babies, their cry sounds like Star Wars lasers. They're little. Yeah, it's great. So Kyle's not here, so I'm going to go on tangents. Sorry,
do
Kyle.
it. Let's hear it.
But okay, so I'm just going to go on critter talk with Matt right now. So I guess we'll start out with what's your favorite animal or organism you see out on your tours, and then after that we'll go into what's the unique ones you don't see all the time you get really excited about when you do see.
Okay. So I think my favorite things to find, I love the snakes, and my favorite one is the rough green snake. A rough green snake is a arboreal snake, typically hanging out in the trees. And I tell people a big rough green snake is about 1.5 feet long and a little bit thicker than a pencil. And they are bright green. So they blend in extremely well. When I find them, I get excited every single time. And I've found a pretty good amount lately. And I get excited every time. Saw some the other day when I was out fishing with some friends, and I just scooped it out of the tree, and I was just like, oh, look at this. I love it. They're my favorite. So I love the rough green snakes. One, because they're so hard to find. Two, they're a super friendly snake. When I catch them, I've never had one even try to bite me. I've had them open their mouths and stare at my face, but they've never tried to turn and bite my knuckles or whatever. Every other snake I've tried to catch, they get bitey. You know, you catch me in like that, I'd bite. So it's a lot of fun. It's also a good educational snake. It's one that you can pass around and teach people how to hold the snakes. I say if you're going to pull an animal out of its environment, expect to get bit, expect to get stung, expect some sort of retaliation. And that also leads me to respecting the animal. Is when I'm holding a snake, especially, I don't hold the non-venomous snakes freehand. I just look at them and point at them and off they go. But if it's the snakes we're talking about, or if you're looking at a crab, or if something happens and a fish jumps in your boat, you know, I try to handle it in such a way that it's not going to injure it. So I'll see people all the time catch a snake and just pinch it behind its head and just hang it up. And at that point, that snake's vertebrae could get injured, and you're harming its, you know, its ability to eat and to breathe. So if you're going to hold a snake, if you're going to hold a fish, try to do it and hold it gently. Imagine you're like holding a big grape. You know, grapes are squishy, but you can feel it. So like you're holding it, you're supporting these animals and enjoying it. So I love the snakes. I see them a lot, and I'm not tired of it yet. The ones that I get excited about, though, are the river otters. I was talking about that today with my group. Oh, my God. They're stupid cute. They just pop their little heads out of the water. You see their little nostrils kind of flare, and then they dive under. So I don't see them that often. I haven't seen any yet for 2023 on Cane Bayou. I've been fishing in the marsh a couple times and seen them popping their heads up, and I see that. I'm like, it's going to be a good day. Even if I don't catch any fish, I saw some otters. We're good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. I probably did hear at some point that there were otters down there, but like I'd never seen any around. But yeah, they are a really cool animal.
They're so fun. I've seen them kind of diving around playing. I've never had one come to my boat because, they don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So we have some fun with them when we do see them. I tell people, if you see me going, I probably saw an otter and I'm trying to get the words out because I'm too excited.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. You were talking about snakes. So previously we mentioned your penchant to take snelfies or snake selfies.
Yeah.
What goes into a good hashtag snelfie?
I don't even remember how I'm not going to like say I own or whatever like that, because I go to Instagram and there's hundreds of people that do it, but I enjoy it. I mainly like the reactions that I get from people. I feel like I get the same reactions from the same people on my Instagram, my Facebook. It's either, oh my God, these are so cute, or oh my God, there's something wrong with you. I think it comes down to being excited when you catch something, because you have to, one, be excited too, and then, respect that you're trying to pull something out of its environment. So when I catch a snake, it's okay, cool, handle it a little bit. If it's a snake and it's kind of feisty, it might bite me a little bit. The ones that we catch, they have these hooked teeth and they're very, very small. So when it bites you, it feels like these little pinpricks are in your hand or in your arm or wherever it bites you, but there's not a lot of pressure behind it. I say if it's sort of like when a kitten play bites, you can feel the sharp teeth, but at that point, there's no power. Gator, different story. I don't mess with the gators. That's illegal. But the snakes, you're not supposed to harass them, and that would be considered harassing them. So I'm kind of harassing the snakes, but it's also educational.
Yeah.
So a lot of people we get, they're afraid of snakes, and only a good snake is a dead snake. I'm not a fan of that saying at all. Snakes have their purpose. We're in their environment. If it's in your yard and hissing at your dog, okay, you can cross that bridge if you get there. I'd just say if you can spray it with water, it tends to go away. Push it with a broom. You don't necessarily have to kill it, especially if you're in the wild. Do not kill them if you're in the wild. But I think going into it is being excited and then having access to your phone. I don't try to get the lighting just right. Like if you go to my Instagram page, some of them have the sun right in my face. Some of them have, it's just, I think the excitement that, hey, this animal is, scared for its life right now. It's attacked me. It bit me a couple of times. They musk you. And then sharing that knowledge that I have with my customers or with my friends. If I'm out, like I was fishing the other day, caught a snake, talked about it. I was like, oh, I'm fishing, but all of a sudden I'm now in guide mode again.
Turns around.
Yeah. Always educating at this point, I feel like. But I think just being excited about it and getting your phone just right. And I don't hold them too close to my face because I don't want to get bit in the face.
Oh yeah.
So it's
that's the moneymaker.
Exactly right. Just a little bit away from the face, and then you snap that selfie. And I started doing one. A friend of mine messaged me saying that I need to do one with turtles. So we're calling those shelfies.
I like it.
So the other day I got a turtle and I got two snakes. So I had a snelfie shelfie day.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it's fun sharing the animals with the people that follow me. It's not many people, but it's
more than me for sure.
Yeah. I think it's just a good educational thing for me. I like the reactions I get, but then people send me pictures like, hey, this snake is in my yard. What is it? Do I need to be worried about it? Hey, this snake is in, it's near my dog. Okay, cool. Let me look at it. And a lot of times it's just a water snake. Sometimes it's copperheads. That's one of our venomous pit vipers. But most of the time it's a water snake. It's a racer. It's a ribbon snake. It's a DeKay's brown snake. Just, people are curious now. And I think I've posted enough and they don't want to send me a picture of a dead snake. So I get is this good? Is this bad? I'm like, well, that's good. All snakes are good. They all have a purpose. Yeah. Okay. That was a long-winded answer to saying I just be excited about him.
No, and everybody that starts following Matt, you can really see the excitement every time he catches one. It's great. But yeah, you mentioned copperheads. So what other poisonous snakes are down there in South Louisiana?
So the ones that we potentially would
Or
see
venomous,
are
not poisonous, I should say. Venomous.
technically it's venomous, but I feel like even professional herpetologists are using poisonous, venomous interchangeably. That's
Okay.
whatever. But so we have the copperheads and the cottonmouths that we would see kind of on or near the water. There's rattlesnakes here. We have was it the canebrake rattlesnake? There's a couple of different types of rattlesnakes, the pygmy rattlesnakes. Now I'm drawing a blank. Coral snakes. And I think we have 7 venomous snakes. And I'd say as long as you can figure out what a snake is not, then you're good to go. Like that is not a pit viper. Okay, we're good to, shoo it away or try to go move it.
Yeah.
But down in on the bayous that we paddle around, it's a cottonmouth. Cottonmouth and water moccasin, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just different common names.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get these on the water, but I think it's a really weird and interesting insect. Horses. Those big, I've always heard them called death horses. They're these big black grasshoppers.
Yeah, so we do get those sometimes.
I will put a link to them in the show notes because they are a freaky looking bug.
Yeah, they're called Eastern lubbers, Lubber. And we should start seeing them now. I've seen my friends post them up in their gardens and stuff, but we get them on the bayou sometimes. I was looking for them today.
Yeah,
but they're creepy looking. They're a giant grasshopper that has a couple different stages of life. So they have their eggs. And then when they hatch, they come out in the hundreds. Like you can walk in the trails and see them all over the ground. And, they'll be about an inch or so long and they'll find vegetation. They'll just start mowing it down. They'll grow to be about 2 or 3 inches long. And then they typically change colors a little bit. So when they're younger, they're black and red, terrifying looking. They get a little bit older. They change to kind of a yellowish, blackish colors, and they have wings. I say it's kind of like Buzz Lightyear. They have wings, but they don't really fly. They kind of fall with style, and nothing really eats it. Occasionally you'll see a shrike eat it or a raccoon try to eat it, but nothing really eats them. So it's a really interesting insect. And again, that's another good educational insect to hold because they don't fly and they can barely jump. So this time of year, if I can catch one of those, I get the people kind of leaning back a little bit that are afraid of them because it's a massive insect.
Yeah.
But the lubbers. Mm-hmm.
I think the last time we saw them, my wife and I and the kids went to Avery Island. So it's where Tesco hot sauce is made for people that's not from South Louisiana. But there's like a garden area near that. And we were walking around and like I stepped off the path a little bit and I saw like a jump. So I saw one and then I literally saw like 40 were there. And my wife flipped out because they are a creepy, creepy looking bug. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop talking about the creepy bugs.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so I think the newest thing with Canoe and Trail Adventures is you guys are putting on a summer camp.
Yes.
And that sounds awesome. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so this is our 3rd year doing it. Year 1, we did, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. It was just to test it out. Last year, I think I did 8 weeks of camp, and that was exhausting. It's a day camp, so the kids get dropped off in the morning, get picked up later that afternoon. And this year, I think we're doing 6 or 7 weeks, giving me some breaks, and because it's hot.
Summer in South Louisiana.
Yeah, summer in South Louisiana, so it's hot. But we just want to get kids outside. Some of these kids they're outdoorsy kids. Some of them, their parents say they're outdoorsy, and they can do like 10 minutes worth of paddling, and then they need a break. That's fine. We try to get people in the outdoors. But last year I set it up to where we would paddle every day we have canoes, we have kayaks, we have some paddle boards. So we would paddle a little bit every day and then do some sort of outdoor skill, fire building, knot tying, shelter building. We would play some initiative games. Like in the beginning of the week, we would do name games and then some problem solving games. And we just play. We do some educational stuff. I don't make it too structured to where they're just like, ugh, all right, we got to do this now. No, I want to play outside with these kids. I bring my daughter outside. I just want to let them enjoy it. So make it educational, but make it educational in a fun way. And so this year we're setting it up a little bit different. I think we're going to take a couple of more offsite trips. So with Canoe and Trail, we have our guide service where we use Bayou in Mandeville and Covington area. And then we have our rental location on the Bogafalaya River. Beautiful stretch of river, very calm when it's not flooding. You can paddle upstream relatively easy. And there's sandbars you can get out and take a break. The water's very refreshing. It feels really good. Even in the summertime, it feels really good. It's probably in the 70s. So it's, you jump in, for Louisiana folks, you get that, ooh, I get people from other parts of the world and they say, oh, this is hot. And you get
bath water
in Louisiana. Yeah. They're shivering, but so we take these kids upriver, we paddle around a little bit. The kids really love the fire building. So I'll have a flint and steel, show them how to use a flint and steel. And as long as the wood is dry, we can usually get the fires going. Sometimes it's, Louisiana summer, so we get those afternoon showers. So it rains in the afternoon, everything gets wet. Well, fire building is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but that's what happens when you're camping, when you're backpacking, if you're going on a day hike and you accidentally might get lost, things happen. So you just got to, stay with it. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but when the kids from 2 years ago are now working with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're doing something right. We have a kid starting to work with us this year. I think his name is Patrick. So I was like, you came to my camp. He's like, yeah. All right, cool. Like we're doing something right. And then we have a kid that's coming up that he's going on his 3rd year of camp. I'm like, you're going to just start working with us. Like you're hired, dude.
Yeah. You already know the whole deal.
Yeah. Like there's nothing new here. We're just going to play all day. Let's go.
That's awesome.
So we get some really cool kids and they just want to play and learn new things. And their parents are like, here, take them, go.
I know. Kind of sad we moved away now because my daughter, I don't think she would have been able to go this year, but maybe the next year or the year after. So bummer, but yeah, that's awesome. Like I ask everybody how they got into the outdoors. Now you get to be the person that actually introduces some of these kids to the outdoors, and then maybe they would come on a podcast and talk about their outdoor experience 20 years in whatever. So everybody needs that gateway to get in.
Yep.
Because some people like us grew up with parents that were like outdoor focused or wanted to do outdoors things. Like my mom has a bachelor's degree in natural resource management. She wanted to be a park ranger until she figured out she'd never get a weekend off for like 30 years. So decided not to do that. But yeah, so everybody needs that gateway to get in, and it's great you're providing for these kids.
And it's really cool when the parents come back and they say, hey, my kid had a blast at camp. Can they come back again this year? It's like, absolutely. Yeah. Like, what are you doing outside of camp? Or, do you need tips? Do you need some information? Do you need them to come work with us for a weekend?
Yeah.
Do you just want them to be worn out at the end of the day? Like, let's go.
No, that's great. That's great. We need more people that are doing that type of thing for kids. But all right. I think it's time for my fun questions. So you ready for the fun questions?
I love fun questions.
What is your biggest outdoor mistake?
So I was thinking about that, looking over the notes that you sent. I've had a lot of bumps in the road with weather and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider those mistakes. It's just dealing the hand you get. But what comes to mind when I was living in Tennessee, working at a camp up there, we were working with some new staff on belaying. So going up and down the climbing wall and teaching them how to belay and letting them down safely. And I've been doing it, a couple of years at that point. And so I was working my way through with some people and I just lost focus for, just the wrong amount of time. Just looked away at something and somebody was letting someone else down and the rope slipped through their hand and the guy on the rope, maybe 5 feet, not super far, but far enough to hit the ground and everybody kind of, And then we all stopped and checked him out, and thankfully he was fine. But I feel like just that loss of focus for that short amount of time, and it's not a mistake that affected me, but it affected him, potentially affected him. So something like that, like where something that I'm not 100% focused. And I was talking about that today with my group, saying that, the Bayou is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful place, but stuff can go wrong. Stuff in nature can go wrong. You just have to be cognizant of that. Like gators, I get fairly close to some of these gators, and there might be a day where one doesn't behave the same way I'm expecting it to. So it's one of those things, is going back to being cognizant of nature and then respecting the wildlife that you're in. So yeah, I think that would, that ranks up there. I've, been backpacking and tripped on a log and almost smacked my face, flipped over a bunch of different types of kayaks, whitewater style stuff where you're like in a rapid getting tossed and turned. And, that's a learning curve for sure. But I think him potentially getting seriously injured really sat heavy with me when it happened. And I still think about it when I'm climbing and when I'm letting somebody down. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be it.
Okay. Yeah. And it's good that you're using that scary, possibly almost really bad experience to kind of use that to keep your focus out there. And I guess that reminds me, have you ever had, I'm sure people have jumped out of their kayaks and stuff on your tours. People like freak out.
Yeah. I remember this one day, I was actually talking about this the other day. We had a group of dudes. They were on, these group of guys that have been friends for years and grown up together. And then everybody kind of separated, and they come in once or twice a year and they do a trip somewhere. Well, they came down to do a trip with us, and we use tandem kayaks to cut down on the boats on the water and make things a little bit easier. I remember one day we were sitting looking at a gator, and we're talking about it. And these two guys were in the boat looking at the gator, and this one guy in the front had his phone out taking pictures of it. And then their friends are trying to be smart asses, and they just paddling up and just T-bone them straight up the side of the boat. And the guys that got T-boned freaked out and kind of leaned into the push of where they got knocked over, and they fell in the water about 5 feet away from a gator. The gator could just not give any flips at all. It just kind of sat there in the water, didn't even go down, just kind of stood there. Like something happened. This gator's not sure what's going on. But so we get them flipped out, or get them flipped back up and back in the boat. And the guys that hit the boat felt like garbage. Apologizing. Oh my God, what, we're so sorry. And the guys that got flipped over was like, it's fine. I'm only a little bit pissed because his phone he was using to take the picture flew out of his hand and fell in the water.
Oh yeah.
And it was deep enough. And if you've ever seen Louisiana water, it's not clear. It looks like really, really kind of like coffee. It's dark.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going in there. There's a gator 5 feet away, and things don't sink straight down. And it's also really soft. But he not only lost his phone, it was one of those phone cases that had his cards on it too. So he lost his phone, lost his ID, lost his credit cards, just like that. I was like, I'm so sorry, dude. And his friend looked at him. He's like, you're paying for everything the rest of this trip.
Yeah.
He said, oh, no problem, bro. I got
karma. Immediate karma.
Yeah. I flipped over with a customer one time. We were doing a sunset paddle in Manchac Swamp, and it was a chillier evening. So I was standing up in my canoe. She was taking pictures of the sunset. I was standing up in my canoe, putting my jacket on, and my watch caught the sleeve of my jacket. So I'm standing up in a canoe, shaking my arm to try to pull it out of my jacket. And I lean too far and flip over. Yeah, so that happened before, but we, didn't see any gators. That was a super shallow area, so we flipped it back up. I've had, a lot of kids flipping the boats with these student groups. They're, acting up, they're splashing each other, and then they're hot, so they flip the boat over. So then it's fun rescue practice. So I get to rescue a lot of canoes. The canoes are a little bit harder to flip back up, right side up. The kayaks, we just, just flip them right side up, and there'll be water in it, but you're already wet, so deal with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So my other question is kind of my catch-all, but what's the question that I'm missing, or is there a question I should be asking you that I just miss some quality podcasting entertainment?
I don't know. I feel like we covered some good ground today. I don't know. I think we're good.
Here's something. What's something about South Louisiana? It can be outdoorsy or not outdoorsy that people not from there, haven't been there, should know.
Oh man. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. When I lived in Tennessee and I moved back to Louisiana. So when I lived up there, I worked in the foothills of the Smokies. The camp I worked at was 8-9 miles away from the entrance of Smoky Mountain National Park. And I moved back and I was just like, oh, I miss the mountains. I miss cold rivers. Nothing's as pretty as the mountains. Louisiana, I was, in this state of, like getting back to home and like, okay, this is fine. But then I started getting into it more. I got back into the outdoor education. I did like lifeguarding and construction stuff, kind of in between the outdoor education jobs, trying to find the outdoor education jobs. There's not a lot down here. But then I started just getting into it more, bringing these kids out, and then eventually bringing tourists out. People come from all over the world to see what is in my backyard. I can get to the water. I can get to the Bogafalaya River. It's 2 miles from my house. I can go paddling on Bayou 20 minutes from my house. I can go to Bogachita River 25 minutes from my house. I can go to Bayou Lacombe or Chafuncta. There's a lot of water here, and it's a lot of water to be explored. And that's all within 30 minutes of where I live in Covington. Not to mention going an hour to the east or an hour to the west, you can get to the Gulf Coast. We don't have elevation, but we have a lot of nature to be explored. And I have only done a little bit of it. There's so much more I want to do, but working and having a kid, and then my free time, I just want to sometimes just sit in the air conditioning in the summer. Like I don't want to go outside in the summer.
Yeah, fair. It's
like my day off. I want the AC.
It can be pretty miserable down there. Like August time, man, it's just like sticky.
Yep.
You walk outside, you get hit with a wall of humidity and heat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just drinking the air. And I tell the kids at the summer camp, I'm like, I do not want to hear you complain about it being hot. Everybody knows it's hot. Yep. How are you going to stay cool? Like we're going to jump in the river. We're going to drink water. We're going to have a splash fight. We're going to sit in the shade for 20 minutes while we eat lunch. Don't sit in the sun. Sit in the shade. That shade saves people. Yeah, it's it really is beautiful. I feel like I had to change my mindset back to that, away from the beauty in the mountains. That's the beauty of the bayou.
Yep. And it's really unique too. Like you don't get that type of landscape everywhere. Like it is a very, very beautiful place. So if y'all go down to New Orleans, venture outside of the city a little bit, it's really pretty. Check it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe take a tour from Canoe and Trail Adventures.
Come on. Or if you want to rent a boat from somewhere I work for an outfitter, we'll rent you a boat too. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll go into all the wrap-up stuff then. So, yeah, Matt, you want to plug yourself or other people's stuff, who you work for, all that stuff?
Yeah. So I work for a company called Canoe and Trail Adventures. The website, I think, is just canoeandtrail.com. We post up, our paddles that are coming up. This time of year, we focus a lot on our rental side of things, getting people on the river. That's basically what kept us alive during COVID is we could keep a safe distance from people since there was no sporting events going on, no birthday parties. People came and paddled with us. So we would put them on the river and say, hey, come back in a few hours and do all that. So that's Canoe and Trail Adventures. And then I guess my Instagram, I think it's MattMay87. If they want to follow me around and see some fun nature pictures. Lately it's been a lot of snellfies. We're getting into snellfie season. Now shellfies, since I'm able to try to get these turtles and I have a quote unquote hashtag for it. I work for another company called Massey's Outfitters. It's just outdoor equipment, stuff like that. So if you're looking at getting, if you come down here and you need some gear, come shop at one of our stores.
Cool.
And then come paddle.
Yeah.
I grew up on a motorboat with a little bass tracker with my dad. We're putting around, but you don't cover as much ground paddling, but I feel like going slower and sitting lower in the water is a better way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still cover, 8-9 miles in a day. You're tired, but I like going slower. You can see more and connect all those dots, not just blowing by the alligator weed with a purple gallinule in it, which is what I saw today. So yeah. Give me a follow. I'll follow back. I don't have a lot of followers.
Well, cool. So yeah, on to our normal stuff. So if you want to help the podcast out, the best way to do that is rate us 5 stars and write a review on, I think Spotify and Apple Podcasts are about the only places that really have reviews right now. So yeah, do that and give us a review. If it's 5 stars, I'll read it online pretty much as long as it isn't super vulgar. So the podcast Instagram is @MereMortalPod. If you want to send us an email saying, hey, I really like that episode with Matt, you can do that adventuringformeremortals@gmail.com. My personal Instagram is @TrevorBowman, 2 L's, 2 N's in Bowman. Kyle still has no social media presence. So keep waving to people that look like Kyle. Look like a Kyle in Central PA, or really anywhere. Just wave at people named Kyle. They need to.
My brother's named Kyle. I'm gonna wave at him.
Yeah. We also have a Discord. It's like a ghost town over there, but if that's your thing, I'm on it. And how to get that's in the show notes. Other than that, just Matt, thanks for coming on. This is great.
Yeah.
Hopefully people learn some stuff. And if you're next time I'm down in Louisiana, probably gonna have to take a tour. Again,
come on back. Come on again.
For sure.
Do a sunset tour. Do the sunset tour.
Yeah, that's the one I haven't been able to do. Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again, and
thank you.
We'll see you all next month.
All right, bye.